Why doesn't anyone talk about Malcolm in the Middle anymore? He's my favorite sitcom of all time. It's right next to Third Rock from the Sun and My Name is Earl. Does Marvel and Mrs. Maisel count? Oh, what's that? You don't know what those shows are? Well, maybe you should stop rewatching The Office. And, by the way, Jim is trash. Yeah, he's an asshole. But can you blame the writers? It's basically a rule that if you make a sitcom, the characters need to be complete garbage. But there are exceptions to that norm. Some would be Seinfeld and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which acknowledge that the characters are complete garbage and just play off of that. But some shows can go even further than that. And well, at first I wanted to make this just one video, but there's just so much I want to talk about that I'm turning it into a whole series, starting with Malcolm in the Middle. There are many comedy shows about families, and they all got their faults. Many depict the dad as an impatient jerk who takes any chance to escape his kids and wife. The mom is some power-hungry beast that can kill you with her stare. And the kids are selfish monkeys who have to be taught a lesson every episode. If it's a daughter, she's usually the smarter one, while the son is the goofball. They always fight through most of the episode, and by the end, they realize that family is everything. This is the most panderizing thing you can do. It's unreal and just cartoony. And yes, by the way, I am choosing my words carefully. I know that Malcolm in the Middle is cartoony and that the mom character is that type I described to you. But it does something so much more different, and it's able to give you more than just a fight and a resolution. So let's go to 3 points. First, character motivation. Let's pick a few episodes as examples. On this episode, Malcolm decides to finally take action on a bully. Later on, he finds out that he beat up a kid way younger than him, and that he was always set to win.
What do you mean he's only 7? What's not to understand? He just turned 7. I guess you were too busy beating people to notice.
Throughout the episode, everyone hates him, and he just feels awful about it. We never learn if beating up a bully is the right choice, even if the kid were to be his own age. All we were left with was that Malcolm picked an easy target to hit by accident. And for me, that's hilarious. Pretty much just stating the obvious without actually having a theme.
Mom, I can't stop feeling bad about what I did to Kevin. I feel like I have a monster inside of me.
Oh, for crying out loud, Malcolm. That's no monster. That's your conscience. You should be thankful God gave you one. It's a gift. And you know what most people do with theirs? They keep him in the closet all year, and they bring him out only when they think he's coming to visit. You're not like that. Good for you.
So I also mentioned that this family dynamics usually have a daughter and a son. In this show, they're all boys, and it does turn out to be a conflict. In the parents' eyes, they all have pretty much the same personality. They're goofy and destructive with little care, each one in their own way. Reese and Francis were the same, but Francis learned to grow up because of the hard discipline applied by his parents, which he never really thanked them for. Malcolm and Dewey also strike to be the same. But Dewey is simply let to do what he likes and with no pressure, which causes him to find just a little more enjoyment on extracurricular activities. And Malcolm just wants to lash out and do things his own way. By the end of the show, you understand this, and it's something that builds up within the family along the show. They all have amazing chemistry, and no two characters act better with one another. Though, maybe Hal and Lois. There's always conflict, but so much love going on here. Hal's got a lot of anger within him, but he uses it so rarely and instead tries not to until there's really no choice. He just really tries to impress people so badly. And Lois knows how things can go south if she doesn't use that anger, so she tries to be brutal at all times. She's also the best part of the show, and it truly sucks that we don't see her anymore because she will go down in history as one of the best characters ever written and performed, I'm sure. Alright, so the parents want the best for their kids, and they can go to extremes, and Malcolm just wants to know that he has a choice in his own life. We know clearly why they can come off as jerks sometimes. And now we have established character motivation, and why we shouldn't jump to conclusions on them. My second point is theme. One of my least favorite things about sitcoms is that most are episodic, meaning that it's a different situation every episode. Examples of non-episodic would be Breaking Bad or Daredevil, which is about a whole story per season. But for sitcoms, it can be a little harder to be non-episodic, and so for the most part, they're not. And so with this, writers decide to spread different themes throughout, and that can become a little convoluted. The worst thing that can come out of this is that the characters can come off as quite obnoxious. Listen, if your character learns not to be selfish, that's great. But if this character has to be taught selflessness every single episode, then it kind of dawns on you that this is not a very good person. Malcolm's family is going through a tough situation where the house is being fumigated and they have to stay in this trailer. Malcolm gets a job house sitting and decides to ditch his family and even deny relations with them.
Oh yeah, like you've never seen this before!
My mistake. I'm on the next street over.
You would think that the lesson is family is important. Wow, that's boring. Instead, this is what you get. He finds hidden tapes of himself while house sitting with weird titles like Malcolm Eating and Malcolm Washing His Hands, and decide that the couple are just a bunch of assholes and goes back to his parents. His discovery was that it is better to be judged loudly and embarrassingly than behind your back, which is so far from what we assumed we would learn. And this allows time to learn that later, actually. And that's how themes are explored here. By taking your expectations and morphing them into something you didn't know you wanted, and then just storing those expectations for later.
Okay, wait. You mean everything you just said, right?
Well, why would I say something I didn't mean?
See, that's what I'm talking about. This family may be rude, loud, and gross, and have no shame whatsoever. Anyway, with them, you know where you stand. And when I have a problem, they're always there.
And now for my third point.
Sex.
It's not all about Malcolm. I feel like my biggest complaint about all shows, and not just sitcoms, is that the world always seems to revolve around just one character. To wrap this up, I want to look into one last episode. In this one, the family cancels their yearly trip and return home right away, only to discover that the neighborhood has a party every time they take this trip.
It's the annual block party.
Annual?
Every year for the last 5 years.
This is when they finally discover how despised they are, even among their own neighbors. And how do they react?
These people need somebody to be mad at. Having us to hate gives the whole neighborhood something to bond over.
Your mother's right, son. Communities seek out a common enemy. If it wasn't us, they'd all team up against someone else. Probably a minority.
Well, Malcolm tries to do good, but ends up ruining things, only to ruin them for someone else and just sort of weirdly becoming the hero.
Unless you were gonna forge stock certificates. Oh my god, you're criminals!
As the protagonist, you expect him to learn something, but the world just doesn't seem to be that interested in him. He is just in the middle. Reese finds out how much kids hate him, and so he starts charging them to beat him up.
For 20 bucks, I'll let each one of you beat the hell out of me for 30 seconds.
Reese is one of the funniest. His lessons seem to be right in front of his nose and so easy to learn, but his misunderstanding of the world just makes him do the complete opposite. Then, Dewey takes advantage of this situation and keeps the money Reese was making.
How could you hit me like that? You're my brother! And my partner! And you didn't pay!
I love Dewey because he's always desperately trying to be the protagonist, and it's like he just fights for the attention of the audience. Meanwhile, Hal and Lois take this opportunity to spend time by themselves, and accidentally proving to the people how strangely loving this family is. Their love isn't shown by simple gestures of affection and politeness. They are shown by putting them in awkward situations and see them try to solve their issues with bizarre solutions. Even when things seem impossible or too far-fetched, the fact that they are able to go on to this limit for each other is proof that there is no other family like them. They just each have this thing that the other one can't stand, and that keeps them in constant energy to react drastically. But at the end of the day, they know who to trust. And that's about all I can say for this show. I made this video for both fans and newcomers. For newcomers, I purposely let a lot of things out. Most of all the little tiny characters that are throughout this whole show. And I could make whole videos about them. and you can even search the best moments on YouTube. The writing on this show is beyond clever. It can be goofy and surreal, but at the same time, down to earth and relatable. If you ever had problems with your identity or you fought a lot with your family, you can find a lot of comfort within this show. Listen, I was never an unhappy child, but even I could feel for Malcolm. I just wanted to remind people that this show is here for us. This is a new generation, and things seem to be going faster, and the only things that people really seem to remember are The Office and Star Wars. And whenever you decide to watch this show for the first time, I just hope that you can view it as a masterpiece one day. Oh, you thought I wasn't gonna talk about the intro? I fucking love this intro. It's made by They Might Be Giants, one of the most underrated bands of all time, and the lyrics explain exactly what the show is about. It's the only intro of any show that I really don't skip. Why would you skip it? It's not too long, it's not too short, and I love singing along with it, especially in a crowd. I don't know what the fuck is showing half the time, and I love it for that. If you guys haven't seen this intro, if you guys haven't seen the show, you guys are missing out. You're especially missing out on one of the best intros of all time. Fuck!
Life is unfair.